Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and here with another episode of the Media Buff Guys, the podcast about anything and everything media related. I'm your host, Ed, and with me today is Lady Hyperfocus Lane,
Hello.
Lord Deviate Matt,
Shut up.
and
Hello,
my
everybody.
and my wife, Lady Binge, who literally watched the first season and caught up to House of Dragons in 2 days.
Yes, Lady Binge.
That's gonna be like a world record or something.
I don't know how you did it, but you did it.
Dude,
Good.
she
I
Kudos to
I
you.
just watched the whole thing. I'm like, that's it? Okay, I'm caught up.
yeah, we're sitting in bed, and then she goes like, "Okay, I'm caught up," and I'm like, "What?"
Only 13 episodes so far, so yeah, it's only 13 hours of your life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a
That's an
half a
hour
day
long.
took me like two
Yeah.
weeks.
because you're lazy.
Yes, yes. Regardless, thank you for tuning in on today's episode. We're talking about dragons once again, particular House of Dragons, the HBO TV series based on the George Martin books, based on the what is it, the Song of Ice and Fire, or the
Ice and
Song of
Fire, yes.
there you go.
Song of Ice and Fire. It's the
Today,
prophecy.
Yeah.
Today we're reviewing episode 3 that just aired Sunday as of recording this episode, and we'll be airing a new episode this coming Sunday. So tune in for that when we'll be dropping this episode. So you can watch our episode as we review episode 3 and watch episode 4, and then rinse and repeat the week after that because that's what we're
You get
doing
a
right now.
nice refresher right before the new
Hell
episode.
yeah, we're
Perfect.
gonna keep this one a little shorter this time around. I know last time we kind of like went a little over. Wasn't
We
because we
did.
were recapping the first season, but this time we're only recapping the previous episode and just talking about the most recent episode. Before we get on with the show, just reminder to check out our affiliate Maono. If you need any microphones or audio interface equipment, you can check them out on the link below. If you're on my YouTube page, use code MediaBuff to get 10% off your first purchase. So with that out of the way, right off the bat, Lane, why don't you do a quick synopsis of the most recent? Oh, wait, and before we continue, spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the episode, spoiler alert.
Spoilers.
So go ahead, Lane, take it away. Do a quick synopsis of the
First,
episode. Quick
spoilers.
synopsis of this episode.
Don't listen to him.
What is quick synopsis of a House of Dragons episode? There's so much to talk about. They're so deep. There's so many layers.
Okay.
There's no such thing as quick.
I mean, if you want to go like right, like literally frame by frame of the entire episode, we could go for it. Let's go for it.
All right. So, beginning of the episode, as we all know, introduces us to a couple of new houses that we might not really be familiar with. The Blackwoods and the Brackens.
Mhm.
We were technically introduced to them in the first season, episode
Mhm.
4, when Rhaenyra was doing her tour of the
Courtship.
husbands around Westeros.
Her shooters.
Yeah, her suitor
Interviewing her
tour.
shooters.
We did get introduced to a young Blackwood who was trying to persuade her to marry him. And the interesting thing is they do bring up these houses a couple other times later on in the series. But the thing about the Blackwoods and the Brackens is they're two houses that have been feuding with each other for longer than even anybody remembers. And no one even remembers what they're feuding about because it's been so long. And the interesting thing about these two houses is one house, the Bracken, sides with the Greens, and the other house, the Blackwood, sides with the Blacks, Rhaenyra. And so when we see their interactions, and then the next scene is that battle scene where you just see all those dead people.
Oh, the carnage.
Speaking of
The
which,
carnage,
speaking of
the
which,
burning mill. That's technically the first battle of the Dance of the Dragons. And it's kind of one of those battles that goes down in history because the houses have so many people involved that it was just a huge slaughter of people. A lot of main people from each house died, and because each house picked a side that they were with, it was technically the first civil war of the Dance of the Dragons. And then after this battle, it's just going to be battle and war and carnage and just massacre after this, baby. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So I understand why they didn't show us this carnage battle, because
there's more to come.
There's way more to come. We have way more slaughter. We don't got to focus on this one, even though it's a really important one. And the people that come from these surviving houses and everything end up being very awesome characters, and I'm really excited to get introduced to them later on down the line. So
what I like from that opening scene, Lane. What I like from that opening scene is like these, like, I think like 8 kids are like squabbling over a wall or a post or something.
It's like a stack of rocks, and
Yeah,
those rocks
boundaries.
are like the
the boundary stone, yeah.
And it's always like one house will move the rocks further on one side to get more land, and the other house will push it back. So it's just like this moving of this rock formation that keeps going back and forth, that just keeps feuding the battle of these two houses over this land. And it's so ridiculous.
But what I liked about that opening scene is it just goes from that and you cut to the next scene where it's just like bodies everywhere. It was just
escalated quickly.
Such a perfect embodiment of that escalated quickly. Like that really got out of hand. And I just remember thinking to myself, this fits perfectly with that scene in Anchorman. Like, boy, that really escalated.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
I killed the guy with the trident. But yeah, that great way to start that episode, by the way. Like, fantastic way.
Yeah, I was really stoked when I saw those two characters, the Blacken and the Brackwoods, and I was like, oh yeah, this is technically like, this is the beginning. Like, this is like the first battle that starts everything.
Yeah.
So it's pretty stoked about that. And then the next scene is R.I.P. twins, Eric and Eric, however you want to say it, the A and the E.
The Rick boys. Just call them the Rick boys.
Exactly. It's their funeral, and because they're not Targaryen, they're getting buried in dirt like everyone else in Westeros does.
Yep.
And this is a pretty intense scene too, because Rhaenyra is mourning. We noticed that she's got like some marks on her face.
A bruise, yeah.
Yeah, she's got some marks. So in that fight, somehow something got her. So it's just kind of even throwing it even closer to home that like she could have really been like murdered that night, and it was like cutting real close to home.
Yes.
What were we gonna say, Jen?
What
were we gonna say about their funeral?
Okay, just like a side note. Did you guys notice that Eric scene where he's like, one of the twins is smiling while he's getting buried? I was like, what? Is he smiling? What's going on?
He got to die with his brother.
Yeah.
It's every sibling's dream. We die together.
It was weird. I was like, why is he smiling?
Yeah, it's like, hey, bro. Yeah, it's like subliminal, like, oh, I'm being buried next to my brother. So
it's like, bro, it's okay. We're no longer part of their beef. We're good now.
Yeah. It's like we can rest now.
It's probably smiling. It's like, I got you, fucker.
That's true. It's like, I got you. You used to say you were the better fighter, but I got you.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It was a somber scene though.
It was really sweet. I appreciate that they did bury them together in the same grave, because that's what they would have wanted inevitably. So I appreciate them for doing that, and Rhaenyra is a boss for that move, for sure.
And
also, like how she scolded her son when her son was like saying, "Oh, why is he here? He trying to kill you." Yada yada yada. She's like, I can't fault him for following his duty and his oath. She's like, pretty much, she's like, shut the fuck up.
And speaking of And speaking of duty and oath, that just threw me back to the previous episode where Cole is telling him like, "You got to go kill her." Like, dude, you're sending me on a suicide mission, or for glory. I'm like,
Right?
asshole, why don't you go?
Go, Cole. Go sneak your fucking ass in there.
Cole's just like, he's not getting any favors with anybody right now.
No,
Uh-uh.
he sucks.
No, he's the worst. And you know the funniest part is that in the books he
No, he
really
wasn't like
wasn't a
that. Yeah.
character that you paid attention to. He was like there, you know, that the in but he wasn't fucking anybody. So he wasn't like
Mm,
as irritating of a character as he is in the series.
yes,
They were just like, let's just make him let's just put him at like Joffrey level. Let's do it. We need a
pretty much.
Joffrey.
It's
We need
already
a
He's
there.
Joffrey of the
he's not
season.
that
So we
bad. Like
gotta.
in
But
comparison to some other characters, he's not that
yeah, no,
bad.
he is because he's a righteous asshole. Okay, he says, "Oh, I'm doing this," but then he's okay being a side piece anyway. Like, what's his morals and his values? They just
Have
go fucking out the window with Allison.
have you not met Ramsey Bolton?
Doesn't matter. Lane, keep going with
Like,
the
as long
synopsis.
as that dude exists, no one will ever be as bad. So I can let a lot slide. But
Okay.
fuck Ramsey.
All right. Keep going,
That
Lane.
will look great.
Keep
So
going.
I also like this moment, this scene a lot because Rhaenys, who is like, she's my girl. Like I love Rhaenys. She's my favorite character. She just swoops in with her like words of wisdom, and
She's
she knows
gotten
what
better, yeah.
she's talking about, and she knows what's going down, and she sees shit. She's always been like this since the beginning.
Hmm.
Like even when um, what was it, episode 2 or 3, when like
She's telling
Viserys
Rhaenyra.
is yeah, when she's telling Rhaenyra like the reality of the situation, that they don't want a female on the throne, like they'd rather throw
Mm-hmm.
the realm to
Penis.
shit. Yeah, and she's always just had like these words of wisdom, and I feel like no one really paid any much attention to her, and she just comes in and she just like really like is just telling Rhaenyra like shit she needs to hear. Like the first thing she says is like, Otto would not have sent Eric to come assassinate you. So clearly somebody else is like giving the orders over there.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
don't even think Rhaenyra thought about that first and foremost, like at all. But Rhaenys did, and she's like, "Look, Otto's not going to do this. This isn't his work. Like, there's some people over here that are just acting out of pure hatred, and And she goes on to explain like, a, a war between kin is the worst kind of war you can have, and
Mm-hmm.
she refers to the gods a lot in the series, and how this is all just going to be a she's pretty much saying like, if we go to war, like it's going to be bad for everybody, like nobody's going to win.
Yeah.
And it's getting back to the point of like, you know it's going to get to the point where no one's going to remember what actually started the feud in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And that also kind of rings back to the Blackwoods and the Brackens and their family of like, no one really remembers what started the feud with them in the first place. It's just for generations, it's like you hate them, and that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of great insight for Rhaenyra to hear from Rhaenys, who's really just laying on the truth. And it's like, who really started it? Did it start when the kid was beheaded? Did it start when Jacaerys was killed? Did it start when Aemon lost an eye? What actually was like the thing that like
The
started this
catalyst.
whole thing in the beginning? And it's and then
Hey,
Rhaenyra is still so stubborn that she's just like, well, they took my throne, and
Mm-hmm.
it's and then she tells her about the whole scene with her and Allison, and how she feels that Allison also doesn't necessarily want there to be a war. It's
It's
just
a mess.
it's just the men that are around that are influencing and wanting all of this bloodshed
Mm-hmm.
and all of this violence. And
Hey, that's how we're programmed.
that testosterone.
Were you gonna say something, Matt?
Well, but I was gonna say also like with like the whole what when it really started, it, it was all Otto. Put everything in motion. The second he decided to like betray everyone and position himself to like rule the throne with by putting who he wanted on it, that's when all this shit started. It was his dirty ass.
Yeah,
Well,
but it's not gonna matter. Nobody's gonna remember.
that's true.
No,
Well,
exactly. But I mean,
also,
essentially, right? When Ama died in childbirth, that's when it like after that happened is when it all technically started.
That's true. Yeah.
If you really want to think about it, because that's when Otto was like, Allison, go. You
Uh-huh.
know,
yeah,
Mhm.
this is our
like,
opportunity.
exactly, you know. So
Well,
really, if
it's
you
the
want to
men
think back
scheming.
to it, it's just
Yeah.
scheming and it's just shitty.
Betrayal, scheming, spying.
It's very
Screwing.
Another
Game of Thrones, right? Typical
another
Game of
scene I end
Thrones.
up liking though is after like all this events that Lane said, there's the two daughters. When
Layla and
they
Raina.
yeah, they were gonna be one of them was gonna be sent away
Well, you're
with
getting
Yes.
ahead.
like
You're getting ahead of it, man.
no,
Yes.
that's
Let
pretty
Lane
much
get.
right after, right?
Is that after Lane?
Yeah.
It does kind of
Because
happen.
I could
So
have
it's
sworn they
like
show.
they,
I could have sworn they shown Aemon
yeah,
heading to that one castle.
yeah. So they switch. So it's like
Right.
this is the scene with the twins, and then the next scene is the Greens battle plan. So after this talk with like Rhaenyra and Rhaenys and all
Oh
of that,
yeah.
then we go to the Greens room, and then we see Christian Cole. He's wearing his bling of the hand around his neck. He's got his chain.
He's
With
got a
his little
midget hanging
hand
from his
symbol.
necklace.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's got the bling of the hand around his neck, and he's looking pretty like nervous. This is going to be his first day at court, and then we see that there are new Kingsguard that have been appointed. Right, like one of them's sitting down, and they clearly are not taking anything seriously.
Mhm.
And you can tell Christian wants to like reprimand them, but at the same time, I think he's kind of just like, well, I'm the head now, so this really isn't my place too much.
Mhm.
But yeah, so then we kind of go, and then he goes into the battle room, and I love that everybody just instantly starts like just talking shit on him for sending Eric over to try to assassinate Rhaenyra, and it totally
Mhm.
backfired, and then everyone's just giving him shit about it. And this is where they're trying to figure out like their plan of what are we going to do next. So then they just Cole's like, we got to take the Riverlands and Harrenhal, because that's like the center of the land. So if you can take Harrenhal and the Riverlands, you are in a place on the map where you can blockade whatever's coming from the north, you can blockade whatever's coming from the east, and then whatever's coming from like uh, the west.
Wow.
So you can blockade like all of those because it's right technically in the middle of the map.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's like King's Landing, Riverlands is here, and then King's Landing is down here. But in
Yes.
order for the Northmen to get down to King's Landing, they have to go through the Riverlands.
Mhm.
And from the people from the Vale to get down to King's Landing, they also have to go through the Riverlands. And then Casterly Rock, where the Lannisters are, to get down there, they also kind of have to so you always got to go through these areas to get down to King's Landing for the most part, to get to the bottom half of Westeros. So that's why this is such a critical point that they're so obsessed with taking. That's why Daemon wants to take Harrenhal. That's why Cole is like, we got to take Harrenhal. And the
Mhm.
Rivermen, there's so many of them that there's a lot of soldiers
Mm-hmm.
there to form an army off of
Mhm.
everyone else. The North has a lot of men, but the North is so far north that it's going to take them
A
like
wild march.
like yeah, 6 to 9 months at like the soonest to get down to King's Landing. So they get almost a whole year before the Stark army will make it down there, because they have so far. And I think in Game of Thrones it kind of gave everyone a weird sense of like distance, and they didn't really explain like how far things were and relatively how it really is. So stuff moved a
Well,
lot faster in Game of Thrones, I felt,
true.
because they didn't really take in consideration the distance. But in
Oh,
this series, in this book, they really do are like, yeah, it took Jace like 4 or 5 months just to fly his dragon up there.
Damn.
right.
He had to take a
Yeah.
few different stops on the way. He made some stops, but it took him months to get to the north.
That's cray
It's
cray.
it's
I mean,
far.
they
It's very far.
they kind of did explain it, like because Robert Baratheon, when he went up uh to get Ned Stark to bring him back for his hand, he did mention like, oh, this is gonna take us like all year being on the road. We should get going now. Like they did kind of mention it in conversation, but you had to pay attention more to pick it up.
Okay.
Yeah. But just like I think like Game of Thrones, like they just age stuff a little bit faster
Hmm
and they move time a little bit faster in that
You
series.
just gotta pay attention to the conversations. Whereas here in House of the Dragon, you don't really have to pay too much to the conversation because the conversations are more about the secrets and everything else with all the other characters.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the whole idea is they need to take the Riverlands. Everybody wants to take the Riverlands. Cole decides he wants to just go with himself on a little party, take it incognito. They suggest Aemon go with him on Vagar. He says no. Vagar needs to guard the castle. Then, of course, Aegon, the egotistical little shithead he is like, I'm going somewhere. And everyone's like, what? Are you stupid? You're the king. You can't go. Like, if you die, this is all for nothing. Like, let's think about this a little bit. Like, you can't just go roaring into battle, you
He's
know?
like, yes, I can. I'm the king.
Exactly. So Cole insists that he's going solo by himself, and that is that. And that is pretty much when we get to the scene of where you were talking about, Matt, where then
Right.
Rhaenyra goes to have the conversation with Rhaena about her and all of that. So what did you want to say on that?
I like how that she was like fussing about, oh, I'm gonna just be like babysitting, and then like when Rhaenyra walked out, she's like, oh, by the way, you're also gonna be protecting these eggs. And then that's when it dawned on her like how important this is. She's like, oh, oh shit. And then she's like, she changed her tune so fast in that scene. She's like, all right, I got this. Let's fucking do it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just thought that was so cool. She's like, she's being a child about it, a little bit of tantrum, and then she realizes the responsibility she's given, and she's like, all right, I got to grow up.
Yeah, because poor Rhaena, her sister they both got eggs, and her sister's egg hatched, and hers didn't, and then
Hmm
all she ever wanted was a dragon, and then her mom's dragon, who she just kind of assumed she was gonna get, got stolen by Aemon, and then there was a whole like child brawl that went down, and
Yeah.
that child brawl was like so intense. Like I think that
Hey,
was like
they
one of the
lost an
best
eye,
things.
all right.
He sure did. So like poor Raina is just is stuck in this family of everyone around her, her dad, her sister, her mother-in-law. Yeah, I guess technically her mother-in-law. Yeah, Rainier is her mother-in-law slash cousin. Whatever.
Something weird.
It's her
Her
mother cousin.
grandma, like everyone
It's her
around,
mother cousin.
yeah,
Down here
everyone
in
around
Alabama.
her has dragons, and she doesn't. And even the little kids, even the younger ones, younger than her, have dragons, and she
Yeah.
doesn't. So it's just like you can feel her frustration in that conversation that she's having with Rhaenyra, when Rhaenyra's like, "We're gonna send you off," and she's like, "Why? Because I'm just like so useless. Like you have no use for me because I have no dragon. So you're just gonna send me away? Like, poor thing. I felt so bad for her.
Yeah, it didn't dawn on her the task that was issued to her.
No, not until
Taking
they showed
care of
her later.
she's taking
Yeah.
care of the lineage and some of the dragons. And then you kind of skipped over one scene that I liked prior to that one, and it's when Rhaenyra is talking to Maesera, And she's basically thanking her, saying like, "Hey, thanks for basically saving my life." And Miss Sirius is
Mm-hmm.
like, "Well, I felt like I kind of owed you because you let me go." And pretty much Miss Sirius at this
Oh
point,
yeah.
you see that even though all she really wants to do is be left alone, she kind of wants to build something for her. So she asks Rhaenyra if she can be in her court,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and Rhaenyra kind of goes like, "Okay, fine." And then you can kind of start seeing the asset that she might become down the line, and hopefully we see a little more of her because I like her. I like her character.
She's the one that holds all the secrets about everybody.
Basically, yeah. See, the
And
thing about Maesira, she's just like literally just trying to find a little piece for
she
herself,
yeah,
and
she's a lot
everybody keeps screwing her over. Literally.
Yeah.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
but she's a lot like the eunuch in Game of Thrones. Like because everyone
Master of
underestimated
Whispers.
yeah,
Yeah.
the
Oh, yeah.
mess.
And
Yeah,
that's
but
actually.
continue to underestimate him. But he, throughout the whole show, he's always proven that you don't underestimate him because of how he carries himself. And that's why she like reminds me of him so much, is because like technically she's just a whore, but she has so much knowledge in her head, it just destroy everyone. And that's why no one wants to
Mm-hmm.
let her go and be free. They're like, you're too
Yeah.
valuable.
Not
And
so
they
much
represent
valuable,
like
like,
the small folk too,
yeah,
like she represents, the people of King's Landing, and so
yeah.
did oh my gosh, I can't forget. I can't believe I can't remember his name because he was one of my favorite characters from Game of Thrones. But yeah, like his whispers, like his little sparrows or like whatever he called
Hmm.
them, like
Yeah.
the same thing.
The,
Like his whole main goal and everything was like the good of the people, the good of the
hmm.
realm. Like he was, pretty much the voice of the small people that didn't
Yeah.
have a say. And that's so I appreciate the Masters of Whispers. That's like their title that they get given
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
throughout this series. And they really are usually like some of the most interesting characters for sure.
It's just so complex. There's just so much to them.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then after that, you see Damon finally at castle, that one castle.
That's
Yeah,
burning.
then
Harrenhal.
Damon goes to Harrenhal, and that was
Hmm.
like a really cool scene too. Like Harrenhal is such a creepy,
Mm-hmm.
creepy place, and
Well, supposedly it's cursed, no?
it is because
Mm-hmm.
it's the so so what Harrenhal was. It was the the kingdom
Impenetrable, right?
before, yeah, but it was the kingdom before like the Targaryens attacked. So it was the person that ruled Harrenhal was this guy named Harren Black, House Black, and he was the king, and he was essentially the king of Westeros, and he ruled out of Harrenhal. And so when Aegon the Conqueror and his sisters decided they were going to take Westeros, they
Mm-hmm.
flew to Harrenhal, and they pretty much were like, surrender. And he was like, no. And they were like, okay. And they fucking burned the whole city with their dragons. Like, burnt the whole
Mm-hmm.
damn thing down to just what it is now. And
Yeah, it's a very
it's
gloomy
never,
looking place.
yeah, because it's just completely was destroyed by Valerian the Dread and Meraxes and Vagar, and those dragons just torched the whole damn city. And
Mm-hmm.
that happened is essentially what scared all the other major houses, and that's how
About
the Targaryens
Benedicta Tigerians.
became, yeah, the rulers of Westeros after that. And
Okay.
ever since then there's been a curse on that place. Like how houses that have moved in, people have died, it's said to be haunted.
Mm-hmm.
It's also has a deep root in those trees. What are they called?
The spiritual ones, I forget what they're called
Yeah,
too, but they're like magical or something like that.
yeah, they're from the first season. I wrote them down, but now of course I can't remember what. Oh, the werewood trees.
There you go.
So the
Mm-hmm.
werewood trees are supposed to be connected to like the old gods. There's one in
Mm-hmm.
Winterfell, and then it's supposed to be what like the three-eyed raven is able to like see through
Yeah,
all
I
of
was
these
gonna say,
trees.
isn't that the
And that,
tree what's his face was stuck in?
yeah, yeah. So wayward trees. So Harrenhal was built like where wayward trees were, and they cut them all down to build this
Castle.
castle essentially, and then the castle was burnt down, and it kind of seems like the wayward trees are taking everything back. That's why it looked like the trees were growing through the old walls and everything, and it just has this really weird, creepy feeling.
Eerie.
Yeah, exactly. It's just really eerie, and I just love the scene where like Damon is coming down, and it's like we get the point of view like we're on the back of Caraxes. I thought that was so fun, and just seeing that like dragon wormy neck, just like they were like, oh, this is what it looks like to ride on the back of a dragon. That's pretty fun. And then I love how we just like bust through the non-existent doors, just ready for a battle, and there's just like nobody around. He's just walking through that whole thing with like a sword up, ready to like for anyone to like attack him, and there's just nobody because it's like
Except for one guard that gets punched in the face really hard.
Except for like but then
I will
like that
protect
one
this castle.
but then like they stop, like he's going through the castle and then they stop, and there's like that scene where he's looking in that hall, and that's the grand hall that they from the first season, the first scene of episode 1, where Jaehaerys the king, and they had everybody come in and they were voting on who's going to be the successor. Like that's the room that everyone was in.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, so that's Harrenhal in the first scene. Like that's where they all go, because it's like the middle of everything, and everyone can go there and conjugate, and that's where they all went, and everyone cast their vote of who they wanted to be the heir to the Iron Throne. And so like there's like that scene where Daemon is just kind of standing there, and he looks, and he's like looking at the hall, and it's like it's kind of a reminder of like, oh, this is where we started in season
okay, I didn't know that.
episode 1. Yep. And then he runs into the guard, knocks that dude out, and busts through the doors, and it's like
they're eating.
They're just eating supper, and he's like, I'm taking Harrenhal. And he's like, yeah, looks like you are. Like, what are we gonna do? Yeah, it's yours. Don't fucking let me go bend the knee real fast. Like, it's cool. It's fine.
Like, you want something to eat real quick?
Yeah, you want some food? Are you hungry? It must have been a long flight. Let me get you a plate.
And his first thought is like, is this poison?
Yeah, exactly. And then he's like, are you poisoning me? It's like, no. But that old man that we run into is Simon. His name is Simon Strong, who is the
brother, right?
Uncle.
No,
uncle. He's the uncle to Laris and Harwin Strong. So the
guys that got burned alive.
Yeah. So the hand that replaced Otto, that Viserys replaced Otto with, was what's his face? Lionel Strong.
Lionel, yeah.
Yeah.
And I liked him. I liked him. No, not Clubfoot. Lionel,
no.
The dad of the two kids.
Isn't Clubfoot related to him?
It's his son.
Oh, goodness.
Dude killed his own dad.
Right? Yeah. Wow.
Okay. Yeah, so the
trying to figure out if he was the brother or the
killed his dad and his brother.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot they
both of them.
It's kind of a dick.
Totally. And
he's not as hateable though as
really.
Yeah. He's supposed to be
that
like
guy's
a
just
place.
Irritating.
He's supposed to be like Littlefinger, but he's just better. Like
no, but that's the guy.
That's
the guy that you do not underestimate, especially because everybody underestimates him because he's disabled.
Yep, they overlook
him.
But that's why I like how he's actually intelligent.
Yeah,
he does.
Yes, he does.
Then we get a pivotal scene later on in the episode. So after that, Lane, the scene after that, I actually like it because it's a pretty funny scene. But why don't you set it up?
So he meets Simon and he meets Simon's family, and then they're like, oh, bend the knee, it's cool, have some food. Damon's like, no, you're about to poison me. Which is really funny because it's like, well, we didn't know you were coming, here. So how are we gonna fucking poison you?
We're eating the same thing
from. We're eating the same thing. Where are we gonna just get some poison from? Like, get over yourself. Like, it's really ridiculous. And then we are introduced to Alice Rivers. She's the lady, like the woman that comes in, and like looks at Damon and then just doesn't give a shit and just keeps on going on with her day. Like what the like who gives a shit?
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, so Alice Rivers is gonna be a really like pivotal character throughout the rest of the
Oh,
series.
nice.
Yeah, so the thing about her is it's never confirmed like what she is, but she's supposed to be the um she's supposed to be like the bastard daughter of Lionel Strong. And so there's rumors that she's a wood witch, that she has magical powers and all of this stuff, and that she's really like 400 years old and all this crazy stuff about her. But she's got something going on with her, obviously, as we see later in the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
when
I liked her. I liked her. She was cool.
With
yeah,
that
so she's
freaking revelation.
Uh-huh. Oh, you're gonna
yeah,
die here, by the way.
Yeah. That's what I was wondering. I'm like, what
exactly.
the hell?
It's like,
Exactly,
who says
yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Right?
What?
So when Damon
Why
has like his
so many
weird
questions?
vision,
That
yeah,
made me
right.
have many questions. Very
So
much.
when after
Yeah,
Damon
correct.
had this weird like vision of like young Rhaenyra sewing like
The head?
Daenerys' head back on
Yeah.
his body, saying like, I always have to clean up after your fucking messes, bitch. Like, why do I always have to clean up after you? Like, get your shit together, you know?
Mhm.
And that's what brings him to tears, is like
Yeah.
hallucinating a younger version of his wife.
Mhm.
Okay. Not the adult version of his wife who confronted him in the room and then he wanted to choke her but didn't, held back. That didn't bring him to tears. It's no, seeing her as like a 14-year-old again. He was just like,
Mhm.
my heart, you know.
Mhm.
Fucking
That
creepy
yeah, but I
pedo.
like that scene. That scene was like, oh, and even Jen was like, oh.
Yeah. So then he wakes up and he's in front of a wayward tree, right?
Uh-huh.
The fucking weird, creepy trees that are just all
Yeah.
throughout Westeros that are connected to old magic and like the children of the
Of the corn.
wood. Yeah, like the weird little wood children that were introduced in Game of Thrones, and they made the White Walkers and all that shit. So yeah, and then she gives like the whole like,
You
you're
will
gonna
die in this place.
here, which is
Yeah.
an you're gonna die here, you know, like a creepy little prophecy, which is, you just hold on, put that in your back pocket for later, everyone.
Oh, and Cell, you're
Don't
going to
forget
die.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually what
Yeah.
came to mind when I saw that scene.
And by the way, Cell, you're gonna die.
Right.
Good
Yeah,
stuff.
so
Good
that
stuff.
was like, you know, that was a great scene and a great setup for Damon and his situation. And then after that, Sir Christian Cole the Pole rides out to Harrenhal.
He rides again,
But not
And then
before not before we meet her brother.
Gawain Hightower, who
which he was not happy.
technically we were introduced to him in the first season. He was an attorney who Damon defeated in the tournament and then went and asked for like Alicent's like
Oh, I didn't know
hand or
that.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Damien
so
whooped his ass.
yeah, so Damon technically fucked over Gwen Hightower, who was Alicent's older brother.
Mhm.
So we meet him again, and he's been traveling for like 3 or 4 months from
Yeah.
Old Town to come to King's Landing just to find out that his dad's not the Hand anymore.
Mhm.
Wah, wah, wah.
Starts talking
This
shit
fucking guy
immediately.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right? And then Cole is, and he's just like, this fucking guy who clearly is not qualified for my dad's job has my dad's job. And then, you know, the whole like thing between Cole and Allison where she gives her like boob sweat rag.
That was
This rag that's been soaking up the sweat of my titties. You can take this with you.
that scene just
And
made
Haley
me
Smell great. It's gonna smell fantastic.
that scene just made me think of like this guy's like that's the equivalent of somebody that like, hey, let me get a pair of your panties.
Right, let me get a pair of those used panties for the road, baby. You know, he's gonna fucking be like sniffing that
He's
every night. Just being that just polishing that pole every night, sniffing
Yeah.
that Allison rag, you know.
Oh god.
then brother's gonna wake up, beat him up, jerking off my sister again.
Yeah,
Well, he kind of catches wind of that because
he does.
as the do the exchange, he kind
Yeah.
of sees that and he's like, something's going on there.
That's why
But
he just talks shit to Cole the whole time. He does not
Yeah.
like him, and
well,
I
well,
love it.
Gwen,
No.
Gwen
Well,
he's
he doesn't
very
like him because he took his dad's job. First off,
Mhm.
that's the
yeah.
dude that took my dad's job, and
But then he's screwing his sister, so
then he catches these like, but
It's like,
incest is. Look, incest isn't something that just runs to the Targaryens.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
not
but
saying
right.
Alicent and her brother banged, but it's just like having a crush on your brother and sister in those days wasn't out of the ordinary for people.
it's
Okay,
funny
that's
it's
all
funny you
I'm
say that.
saying.
It's funny you say that, Nick, because Jen and I were actually talking about that, and apparently it was like playtime for them back in the day. It's
Mhm.
considered a form of play for them, and it wasn't
Yeah,
frowned upon. But Gwen, he seems a lot like his dad, but there's a little more there, so I'm looking forward to see what we see more of him.
I
yeah,
just like how he just shows up, starts talking shit to Cole, and Cole
Mhm.
just has to eat it. He
Mhm.
can't say anything about it. He can't do anything about it. He just
Brother-in-law.
gets it right up the ass. Like he
Future
has
brother,
to take it.
pseudo brother-in-law.
Mhm.
And he fucking
yeah.
knows it too. That's why he
Uh,
just keeps talking shit to Cole. It's like, I can do this. You can't do shit.
Mhm.
Honestly, Cole took kind of a beating in this episode if you just
Yeah.
look at every scene.
Well deserved one.
Well deserved, yeah.
Well deserved. Yeah. So then after that whole scene, and then they take off for the Riverlands and Harrenhal. The next scene is Rhaenyra and her council talking about
Hmm.
what they need to do, and pretty much all the guys in her council are
Use
pretty
the
much telling
dragons.
her, "You got to use the dragons. We got to go
Mhm.
to war. We got to use these dragons." And Rhaenyra understands like the the damage that dragons will cause and the death
Hmm.
that dragons will cause, and she knows
Mhm.
that has to be like a last ditch effort. Like that has to be our last resort. Like
It's a nuclear deterrent.
using using
Yeah.
dragons is like using nuclear warfare. Like
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
you're gonna a lot of people are gonna get screwed. So that's like
Mhm.
you really want to be your last choice,
Hmm.
right? And then they tell her like, oh, maybe you should just go into hiding and like let us run the council for
Then she's
you.
like,
And
oh, fuck.
she's like, hell no, that's treason, bitch. You need to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Who are you talking to? And then Rhaenys, her words of wisdom just come back in, and she's just like, you guys really need to
Shut the hell up.
shut the fuck up. Take notice of the crown she's wearing, who
Yeah.
was worn by Jaehaerys, who was the only Targaryen with the longest reign, the most peaceful reign, the best ruler out of everyone.
That's
And
true. Yeah.
why do you think that he was such a good ruler?
Hmm.
Because he didn't just go in guns ablazing or dragons ablazing
Like Mad would do.
for yeah,
I
like
would
fucking
not.
like
I would consider the
exactly.
options and then
I think she meant Matt Smith. Matt. Amen. Matt
Either
Smith.
Matt, it works both
I
ways,
would
but yeah.
not. I would consider the options and then go guns and charge it.
No, but either way, I like that scene too. And the scene that follows from that is really sweet. It's a really sweet scene.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that scene after that is, you know, everyone's leaving for the Vale. So Rhaenyra is, saying goodbye to her three youngest sons, Joffrey, Aegon the third, or Aegon the youngest, and then Viserys the second. And also with them are their dragons that are going with them. Tyraxes, who's about 6 years old, so you see him in the cage. And then Aegon the second also has a dragon who is pretty much a hatchling. So he's teeny tiny,
Mhm.
teeny tiny, fit on your shoulder, teeny tiny. So that's why he's in like a cooler sized container they're carrying. And then that's when they reveal like Reyna's like big major task is not
Four
only
eggs.
watching after these three boys, but also these are the last four dragon eggs that have been born, and they're the dragon eggs that Damon, you see Damon in season 1, he's like pulling these dragon eggs. He goes into the
Oh,
dragon
he snatched them
mire.
up?
Yes, he
Yeah,
did.
and so those are the dragon eggs that Damon collected in season 1, and those are all the eggs that he collected. So there's 4 eggs in total. And
Mhm.
the way HBO did it, they changed it. So in the book, it's only 3 eggs that she gets sent with to the Vale. But in this season, they made it 4 eggs because obviously they are trying to tie Game of Thrones to House of Dragons, and so it's hinted because they mentioned Pentos and sending the 2 younger boys with Rhaena to Pentos, um, which is where we see Damon and Lena, and that's where Lena dies. She dies by dragon fire. They're in Pentos, so that's where Rhaena is essentially saying she's going to send the 2 younger boys. Um, and then if you remember in Game of Thrones, Dany is in Pentos when she marries Drogo, when she gets gifted
Right.
eggs. So that's why they're connecting it all together. So these are supposed to be Drogo, Rhaegal, and Viserion, or whatever, Dany's dragons, or it's supposed to be the other 3 eggs.
Right.
We did it, everyone. We connected it all together. Finally. It's all connected.
It's all
Um,
connected.
we did it, everyone. Even though in the books, Dany's eggs are technically come from Dreamfire, who is Helena's dragon. We see her in the first season. She's in the Dragon Keep in King's Landing. So her eggs get stolen like 100 years before all of this was taking place. Like her eggs get stolen, they get shipped off to Pentos, and they get lost. And so technically in the books, those are supposed to be Daenerys's dragons, but they changed it, and it's fine. Who cares? Now Daenerys's dragons are from Cyrax, and it's cool. We'll take it.
There's also a scene you kind of skipped over, Lane, that before that it's that little conversation Rhaenys has with her husband
Lord
and
Corlys.
Corlys, and they're basically
Yeah.
just talking about like at this point we have no stake in this anymore. Like we just gotta survive. We gotta keep the kids alive.
Yeah, they're going back and forth of who's going to be the heir to Driftmark. So Rhaenys wants Rhaena to be the heir, and Corlys is cool with Joffrey being the heir. And then Corlys like makes this comment of like, well, maybe we'll just make a new one. And it's like, y'all are too old. Get out of here. You guys are not about to make a new baby right now. Like, let's be real.
Yeah. No, her comment about that was pretty funny too.
Yeah.
'Cause she's
So,
like,
and I'll save all this to the end of the episode. We'll just keep going. But all of these Rhaenys scenes are very important.
yeah.
So at this point, Rhaenyra sends out Rhaena to the Vale with Joffrey, Aegon II, and Viserys, their dragons, and 4 dragon eggs. And so they're going to the Vale where Rhaenyra's cousin is ruler of the Vale because that's where her mom is from.
Yeah.
So they're obviously pledging for her. So they have the Vale backing them up. They have the Starks backing them up right now. They have some people in the Riverlands backing them up. And then they have the Valerians of Driftmark backing them up, plus like a few other smaller houses that make up the Black's Court or the Black's Council or whatever. They consist of Corlys Valerian, Barnabas Celtigar, Simon Saunton, Gorman Macy, Maester Gerardus, Sir Stefan Darkland, who we will see later in the episode, Laurent Marbrand, Sir Alfred Bone, Rhaenys Targaryen, and Miss Saria does eventually end up on the Black Council as well, as the Master of Whispers, which we kind of figure out throughout this episode when Miss Saria is like, put me on your council. And then Rhaenyra doesn't say no, but she doesn't say yes either, but it eventually happens. So those are all the houses in her court that are backing her at the moment. And so after everyone goes to the Vale, we end up back in King's Landing with Helena and Alicent. And poor Helena. That
Mm-hmm.
poor girl just had her son beheaded, just had to get
Mhm.
paraded through freaking King's Landing.
Mm-hmm.
And I, the first thing she says is like, I'm not that upset about Jaharis anymore because all babies die.
Yes.
I think that is so sad, and that is like a horrible
Mm-hmm.
lie to have to tell yourself to cope with the death of like your son.
Mm-hmm.
God, poor thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Plus, seeing your
and
mom fucking Sir Cole was not
yeah,
tough.
right. And then Allison is just like, that's just part of being a mom. Like what?
Yeah,
Like it's
Allison was
not
not
like
helping that
she is
situation.
the
She
worst.
she
She
was
can't comfort anyone to save
Yes.
her freaking life, dude.
Yeah, she
It's the
sucked at that.
worst, mom,
she wasn't trying to
ever.
like she wasn't trying to like comfort her. She was just there to make sure that she wasn't gonna say shit about her fucking Captain Cole.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Captain
what?
Cole Pole.
Right?
But then Helena's like, we don't have to talk about it. I forgive you, but we don't have to talk about
Yeah.
it.
Right?
Like,
And she's
She's
like,
like, stop
it's
bothering
like,
me with that
what?
shit.
You forgive me? What?
No, oh yeah,
What?
dude. Like, what did I do? What are you
yeah.
forgiving me for?
For what?
Oh
Wait, what?
God. Her and her. Oh my God, no. Nope, nope, nope. Her fucking self-righteous. Oh my God, that's
Bullshit.
like the worst kind of person.
I know. Allison is the worst mom ever, dude. And like, I never really thought that. I mean, okay, Cersei, I thought was
Cersei's
not
the best, okay?
Cersei is like a really good mom in terms of like all she cares about is like her kids.
And
But until you get like later on down the line, and then she just literally just lets her son like jump out a window, and she's just like,
well, a lot happens up to that point to
exactly,
her.
exactly. I
Like
know.
she goes through a lot. That's why at that point
He
she's like,
does.
oh well fuck. What else can happen to me? Like I've been
Mm-hmm.
through so much already. But yeah,
She's numb by then.
she
Yeah, she's pretty
is.
much over it at that point. She just could have
Yeah.
done. Yeah,
The-
so Allison being the worst mom ever to enter Westeros, she takes the cake. I don't think there's any mom that's worse than her, honestly, at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But meanwhile, Aegon the Second is playing dress up in the Conqueror's like
Mm-hmm.
armor, and I don't know. I thought that armor was so lame compared to like Damon's armor or Rhaenys's armor or
Mm-hmm.
anybody
Alright.
else's armor that we've seen so far in this
You think
show.
it's
Like,
too plain for a
I just thought it
conqueror?
was really boring. Yeah. And the fact that like I was like, realistically, there's no way this little fucker would be able to fit in this armor.
Fit
I
that,
feel like it
yeah.
would be so big on him,
Mhm.
like so he's playing dress up, and then Laris shows up.
Oh Lord.
Laris shows up and is
Yeah.
just like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't fucking go out on our dragon. And then I love how he like tells the guard, he's like, I don't know, maybe it's not a good idea if he flies out on his dragon and gets murdered and then dismembered and thrown across and fed to beasts. Like, what do you think? And the guy was just like, his face was just like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. And then I like how he lies, like straight lies to Aegon and plays on like his fragile, like little ego of how
Yes.
like, oh, well, there's also this rumor that like
Mm-hmm.
you were persuaded to go by your mom so that your mom and Aegon can rule, and like that was
Mm-hmm.
the thing that like keeps
Mm-hmm.
them. Not that like, oh, maybe you might die, maybe you'll be in danger, you shouldn't go. It's just
Mm-hmm.
not what a king would do.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wait, my mom and my brother might be trying to take my place so I'm not here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't. Like, it's just that just goes to show just like how
Priorities.
toxic
Mhm.
this family is, and how they don't really trust each other,
Mhm.
and how they're just think that like everybody's out, like each of their own family members is out to get them because
Mhm.
they weren't raised in like a loving situation.
Yes.
You know, like it's just it's so sad, like how like Allison's kids grew up to be
It
all
was
just
all for power.
fucked up in so many different
Oh
ways.
yeah.
Well, the
And
way it
yeah,
stems, like it stems from Otto. Like he
Mhm.
used his daughter for power, and then
Mhm.
she's like, "Oh, this is how we're supposed to do things." Versus
Mhm.
Rhaenyra and her father. Her father loved the shit out of her. He was
Mhm.
supportive. He was protective. Like he was kind and caring and everything a father should be.
Mhm.
And then he dies, and everything falls
Mhm.
to shit.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
exactly like
But
that.
that's why you can see the difference between Rhaenyra and Allison, and that
Mhm.
like how they treat each other. Like Rhaenyra learned it from her father, and then she's
Mhm.
like, "Oh, this is how you treat your children, right?"
Plus,
And
Yeah.
then
Rhaenyra's mom was a good mom. Like Aemma was a
yeah,
good mom too. Like she loved
Mhm.
her daughter, you know, and there was never any point where she put her pride or anything before
Mhm.
Rhaenyra. And you know, you can definitely tell it's like a very different. Like Rhaenyra, you know, she raises her children like she loves her children,
No, yeah,
whereas
very much.
Allison
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
loves her children, but because she, it's more like she has to.
Mhm.
To a
yeah,
certain
She has
extent.
to
It's
because she's
like,
Yes.
so
required to because
I'm
she's
your
their
mom,
mom.
so I guess I have
Yeah,
to
so I
love
guess I
you.
gotta love you. Yeah,
Mhm.
like people expect me to love you because I birthed you. So I
Mhm.
guess we have that relationship
but
or
to
whatever.
her, they're just a means to an end. That's all
Mhm.
they're used for.
Exactly.
Well, there's the
Exactly.
upbringings of Otto right there.
Mhm.
Yeah, it all
Yeah.
comes back to Otto and his
It's just
like just
basically
power
like,
trip for
I'm
sure.
yeah, I'm just supposed to birth heirs, and that's what my job was, like
Yeah.
no real
Nobody
connection.
said anything about loving you guys.
Yeah, and that's not really what it comes back to too, is it's like, you know, like her having these children were her duty. It was her
Mhm.
duty to have
Mhm.
them, not because she had them out of love and want.
Mhm.
You know, like the only thing she wanted was fucking Christian Cole, clearly.
Mhm.
Like she had a huge crush on him way back when she first
Yeah.
saw him, and I'm very much convinced that was one of the reasons why she like turned against Rhaenyra so hard, is because Rhaenyra
Yeah.
fucked her guy. Fucked
First.
her crush. Yeah, exactly. You know, not because
Well,
Rhaenyra
tit for
so
tat.
much
She
like
fucked. She fucked
sullied
her
herself.
father's.
Yeah, yeah. Right, tit for tat, bitch. You fucked my dad. I'm gonna fuck your guy. I feel like that's what this whole thing is. I'm mad at
you
you
know.
because you fucked him first.
Yeah. That's the whole. That's what started the war.
That's what started the war. Yeah.
A war started.
If Rhaenyra would have never fucked Christian Cole, we would never have been here in the first place. That's
Allison
where
was
it all
mad that she
started.
was sloppy seconds.
Mm-hmm. Why
All
does it matter?
right.
She's the last one. Why does that matter?
Yes, like
You rather be first or last? Pick one.
You could be none. You
well,
could be
if you're not
zero,
first,
not
you're
get anything
last.
at all. So I mean,
Oh man.
at least you got some.
Now I'm wondering what Cole's working with down there, man. It must be something impressive.
He's Dornish, you know. I know what they say about the Dornish. Oh. I can say anything about it. They're fictional. We can fucking make up
Yeah.
anything we want. They
Yeah.
hang. They're the real. There's a reason they're called sand snakes.
Yeah. And then the coup de grace, the whole thing is Laris or whatever his name is, just like pulling the strings of Aegon, and Aegon basically saying like, you know what, my grandfather never cared for whispers, but I think I'm gonna do that. So
Yeah, then
do you want the
Lyris
job?
totally gets it. He gets a fucking promotion. He gets a whole job, like an upgrade. He's gonna be in that court now every time.
He hella stepped over Ellison.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, um, I can see your usefulness is running out. Let me go talk to your son real quick.
No,
Yes, bro.
it's like I know you're fucking Cole, and that's why I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting less foot action from you. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
fuck you over and just go right past you to your son and just like
The
take my
OG
feet
only fan
away.
fetish, man.
Take
Woo!
my my royal feet away. I'll show you. Oh man. All right. Enough about that. So the next scene is we meet our first dragon seed, who is Ulf. Ulf. How do you say his name? Ulf the White. So we meet him in the bar. So he's going around and he's bragging to his friends that like
He's the half brother.
Yeah, he's the
He's a
bastard son of
half bastard.
Damon and
Balon
Viserys.
Brave. Yeah, so he claims he's the bastard son of Viserys and Daemon's father, Balon the Brave, and therefore that makes him the uncle of Rhaenyra and Aegon. And of course, none of his friends believe him because it's like, like he doesn't.
Is he
look
just
like
telling
them.
tales, or is that there's any validity to that?
So, I mean, this is kind of touching on something that we're going to run into later on in the season. But dragon seeds are the bastards born of Valyrian descent. So anyone from Valyrian who has a bastard, they're known as dragon seeds because Valyrians can control dragons, essentially. So he's going around bragging all of this, and it's not that he's like lying about it. He is a dragon seed. It's just nobody knows like who actually his dad is. It's never confirmed in the books who his dad is. It's never said, so we don't really know who his dad is. It's just he is someone of Valyrian blood. His mom, that's how he was born. I think the thing is he's just picking like the heir that would have the most sway over people, like the heir to the throne who was
something believable but not too believable.
Like exactly, like it's more of a bragging right to be like, oh yeah, I'm from Valerian the Brave, than to be like, oh, I'm from Rhaenyra's dad, whatever, or a different anyone. It's just more of a bragging right, I feel like, is what he's really bragging about.
Yeah.
But he is a bastard of some Valyrian person.
We just don't know who that is.
We just don't know who it is.
Plus, he was also talking smack about Aegon a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit, yeah. And then Aegon comes into the bar.
He got real quiet, real quick,
and then he was like, "Oh shit! Oh, hey, the king!" Lemon said it. He's like, "Oh shit! Let me backtrack. Hold on."
That's hilarious.
That was good. And then Aegon comes in with his like bros of the King's Guard, his king bros.
Yeah, king bros.
His King Guard bros.
Alpha time.
No.
Frat boys.
Go ahead. Finish your sentence. What were you saying? Yeah.
And then the girl that actually serves, oh my gosh, that's so sad. The girl that serves Aegon in the bar is actually the girl that Alicent gives the potion to, because Aegon
so there's no baby
raped her, her, whatever. It's the same girl.
It's the same girl.
I didn't know that.
Kind of figured.
Same girl.
Kind of figured it would be. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the same girl, and she's like there pouring his drinks for him, and he doesn't have any idea who she is. He doesn't even acknowledge who she is. It's like just goes to show you, like.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but she cares about what he's putting his dick in, Fucking
not much.
Yeah. And then we leave there, and then we go to like the pleasure house, right? Yeah. Which is wild. They had like a whole BJ scene. You saw that?
Yeah.
I was like, I think that's the first time we've ever seen that on TV.
They had it in Game of Thrones as well.
No, but like they show the girl just like mouthing the guy.
Yeah, they did that Game of Thrones as well. And then she walks out.
Which one?
Okay, it's this girl. It's panning across one of the brothels that Littlefinger owns, right? And he's there at the brothel, tending the business. And then someone goes there to see him. And just before you're introduced to that character and he starts talking to Littlefinger, you see you see someone looking around and the people to see what other people are doing. You see this chick blowing this dude, and then she walks out and she has like jizz on her lip still, and
Ah,
Littlefinger wipes it off of her and tells her to go entertain the dude that he just spoke with, and she straight Frenches the dude.
With kids in her
uh,
mouth.
It's been a while since I've seen that, but yeah, okay, all right.
I
But
remember
still,
that
I was
shit. All right. I was like, oh,
I bet
gross.
you do, Matt.
I'm sure
It
you do.
haunts me. It haunts me
Saw
It
today.
that scene
haunts
and I
me.
was like, they are very bold. This is why this is on HBO, clearly. Um,
Skinamax.
yeah. He's just pulling back different curtains, being like, nope, this isn't it. Nope, this is the wrong one. And he's looking for
A
Sylvie,
particular hooker, yeah.
yeah, he's looking for Sylvie, who's like she's like owns the brothel. She's the courtess, like what's the
The madam.
Admistress.
yeah, she's like in charge. Like it's her
The
brothel
man.
and everyone works underneath her. And then
Hmm.
that's when we see like he pulls like the curtain and then like there's like little
Amen.
Aemond
Aww.
With his mommy fetish.
with his little mom fetish. And that's so sad.
It is,
It
dude.
is.
He has to go to like a whore to get like affection that he never got from Allison because she's a
Right?
terrible mom. Like
Mhm.
so bad, you know? And then, you know, Aegon just goes in and like teasing him and making fun of him. And then you just see like poor Aemon like resort back to little Aemon where he's being
Mhm.
teased because he doesn't have a pig and they bring out I mean he doesn't have a dragon and they bring out the pig to tease him with it and it just all like it's all just like full circle
Yeah.
and it's just so sad that it's like even as now adults like he's still just being tormented by his
Yeah.
older brother
Mhm.
and it's just so
Despite the
sad.
fact that he has the biggest dragon of them all.
Exactly, he's got the biggest dragon but he's still
In more
just
ways
like
than one.
Yes.
Ladies fan service coming up.
Oh my
yeah, and then you
goodness.
know he stands up and then it's just like we see everything he's working with and then he just plays off like he doesn't care and then storms off
Yeah.
which is probably going to lead to him being angry hopping on Vagar and flying off and doing some shit when he was
Probably.
supposed to stay in King's Landing, so that's gonna you know probably make him leave and lead to one of the reasons we had encounter our first dragon fight, which is probably going to happen over the first next episode or two. But yeah, that scene was all just pretty fucking.
Yeah, when I saw it, I'm like, ah, that's messed up.
Mhm.
Because you knew that he would go to her to just get cuddles. Like the
Yeah,
kid
just
just wanted to be
comfort.
held.
He just
Mhm.
needs comfort. He's never had that from his mom, and it's just like
Mhm.
he's just so desperate for it, and it's just
For
Mhm.
so
affection,
sad.
yeah. Like how starved for
Yeah,
affection must somebody be to go to that lane? And it's
exactly.
kind of a sad reality because apparently some places do offer those services where they're professional cuddlers and they'll
Mhm.
go to you and they'll just hold you. And I'm
Yeah,
like, wow, that's wow.
it's pretty wild.
The reality of it, yeah.
For sure. So then after that, that whole scene, then we get like the cool like Bela on Moon Dancer scene where she's, you
Mhm.
know, patrolling King's
King's
Landing
Landing.
area
Hmm.
and then she sees
The glint
Kristen
of the arm.
Cole. Yeah, the glint of the armor where on the ground it's Gwen's like, I'm leaving and I'm gonna go stay at an inn because how dare you expect me to sleep on this dirty ground? And Cole's like, what the fuck is this? This isn't
Mhm.
what we do. Like we're not just gonna go to an inn so you can sleep, your royal highness, you know?
Mhm.
And then, you know, Cole kind of like observes that like they're just really exposed and
Yeah.
they probably shouldn't be talking out here. And then he looks up in the sky and then we just see like the teeniest, tiniest like little outline of like a dragon up there. And then we find out that it's Balon Moondancer.
That scene was badass, by the way.
That was such a good scene and it's cool because Bela in the books at this point Bela is not even like her dragon's still too small to kind of really ride on and she hasn't really been riding on it, so I like that they kind of sped sped that up a little bit and made it to where she's more integral sooner than later. In the books, like she's kind of just like fucking off the dragon and just doing this and doing that, and she's there, but she's not doing anything really important. She does important stuff later, but I like that they're making her do important stuff now.
Well,
And
there's a huge thing between the books and the show. Books are like 50,000 pages long.
true.
No, but I like the scene because you see they spot her and they immediately just go like, "We gotta get to the trees," and you see her just
Yeah.
like do this badass dive trying to get in range of them, and the dragon's tucking its wings in, and she has like full control of it. And she sees that they get to the thing, and she immediately pulls up, like the dragon just pushes away from the trees, and it circles around them, trying to see if they could spot them. And I'm like, ooh, that's gonna be badass down the line when she's like fighting with other dragons. So the effects team
Right?
is gonna have their hands full on this.
Yeah.
There's gonna be some epic scenes.
I mean, if it was me, I would have just fucking lit that whole forest on fire.
I was
I would have
thinking
done
that.
that shit
I
too.
would have done
She
that
knew
too
better than that.
immediately.
Yeah.
I was like,
Also,
light them all up, burn everything.
I think Rhaenyra told her not to engage, just to monitor.
Oh,
Patrol.
that's true. So
Yeah.
She's
that's
just
true
supposed to
because
patrol.
later on,
Yeah.
she's like, later on, she did say, I didn't engage technically.
Well, and also then you kind of skip the scene prior to that, the one after the brothel. They show Rhaenyra finding the note that Alicent has sent
yeah, I
her.
was gonna talk on that. I was gonna talk about
Yeah.
that next. So yeah, Alicent, like Rhaenyra finally like decides to read that note that Alicent sent her after not reading it for forever. And then that's when she goes and talks to Missaria and asks her, like, tell me about Alicent. Like, where does she go? What does she do? Tell me what she does. Since you know everything. And she's like, you know, she's guarded all the time, and she's in the castle, the keep the whole time. The only time she leaves is to go to the Sept to pray. And so that's kind of when Rhaenyra
Hatches the plan.
expresses that she needs to talk to her to try to work all of this out, to try to stop this war from happening, because you know, when Rhaenys talked to her earlier about how when she was stuck in the castle and Alicent came into her room and you know, pretty much expressed that she didn't want war, and how so she decides that she needs to talk to her. And it's kind of at this point where
this is actually
like
the part. This is actually the part.
suggests she sneaks into King's Landing like Daemon does, and but just not like dress obvious, like, you know, like she's like,
This is as a nun.
Incognito,
pretty much is like, you know, you can dress certain ways to where men won't
notice you,
even acknowledge you, that you even exist. You just have to wear the right thing, essentially. And you know, Daemon can get in through these back little ways, like we can get you in through these back little ways. And so that's when Rhaenyra pulls a sister act, and she dresses up like a nun. And she takes her Steffan Darklyn, who I told you we would mention later on. She takes her Steffan Darklyn with her as her one guard, and they dress up as a Septa and a Septon, who are essentially like a nun and a monk, I guess.
Yeah.
And they sneak in to the Sept, where she runs into Alicent. And that whole scene never happened
really
in the
important.
book. It's really important, and it didn't happen in the books. It's completely made up for the show. But
there's a lot of scenes like that.
Yeah. But it's really important because it calls back to season 1, where like young Alicent and Rhaena are like in there, and
they're praying.
Alicent is explaining like, just pray for your mom and blah blah blah, and they're even like sitting in the same sides, like Alicent's on the right and she's on the left, or however you're looking at them, whatever.
Yeah, it's a little throwback to that first episode, actually, I think, because they're just
first or second episode, I think.
Because they're
Yeah.
they're there as little girls and they're praying for stuff.
Yeah, well, she's trying to grieve the death of her mother, you know. She's like, this is a good way to do it, you know, if you pray.
Hmm. And I think that scene is kind of funny because it's like clearly like Rhaenyra just didn't really think her plan out because she like
No,
kneels
So
down next to her and just like pulls out this blade, and then Allison's
it's
like,
like,
"What are you gonna
we,
do?" She's like, "Stab." Like, what do I do if I cry out? She's like, "Well, your guards get me, but I'll kill you." And then like,
yeah,
I don't really know what would happen to me after. And clearly, I didn't think this through. And she's like,
yeah.
"Uh, let me
it's
restart. Let me just start over. Let's start
I
it's
don't
over."
know how well this plan was thought out.
Yeah, I thought that was like a really cute, funny, like little scene that like
Yeah.
really just like calls back to like their relationship with each other,
yeah,
and like
Yeah.
like
couple of
it's like
dummies.
yeah, and Rhaenyra is clearly like really only there to talk. She just didn't
Mhm.
really think past just talking
Mhm.
to her.
Yeah,
Yes.
Right.
it's just funny because the entire time Allison isn't even scared. She's not even
Hmm.
phased by it. She's just like, "What are you gonna do with that knife?" Or like, "Well, if you scream, I'll stab you." I'm like, "Okay, then what, smart guy? My guards are gonna kill you after that." Like, all right, maybe this is too much. And she puts the knife away. I
Hmm.
just want to talk.
I just think this through.
You didn't start out right though.
Yeah, yeah, and so then Rhaenyra starts talking about the tournament that they watched when they were younger, and how they both
Yeah.
understood that like essentially men just always lust for battle and blood.
Hmm.
And she knows Allison doesn't
She's
feel
not about
like
that.
Hmm.
yeah, and that they're on the same terms in terms of like it. That's the least. That's what they want to do at the like. We can do so many other things, but like the bloody battle war is like the thing we want to do last case scenario.
Nobody wins.
So
Hmm.
Yeah.
yeah, nobody's gonna win, and
So much loss
then
on both sides.
yeah, and so um, she tells Allison that Bernice has been counseling her and that she believes Allison needs to avoid war as well.
Hmm.
And Rhaenyra asks that Allison and her come to terms of peace to avoid war. And then
Hmm.
Allison says Rhaenyra has no allies after killing the young Prince Jaehaerys, and Rhaenyra explains that she wasn't the one that ordered it, um, and that she lost a son too, and no one's apologized to her for that, or like said anything to her for that, or brought that up in anything, you
Hmm.
know. And and Allison says she disapproved of that act, and that wasn't something that she wanted to happen. And Rhaenyra is like, of course not. Of course, she didn't want my son to be murdered. Duh, obviously. Just like I didn't want young Jaehaerys, to be murdered. I didn't even know that was happening. So it's just like it kind of like come to the conclusion that neither one of them was actually at fault for the death of these two boys.
Hmm.
And like this is where we're at. It's clearly the men involved that are doing this.
Hmm.
Um, And then Rhaenyra accuses Allison of working to take her throne from her and risking war just to have her son on the throne. And Rhaenyra claims that she saw the king that night and that he was still affirming that she was going to be the heir, that the throne was going to be hers, and that is what he said to her. And then Allison like cuts her off with like, he changed his mind. Just
Hmm.
cuts her off like and just like says it like so fiercely, and just cuts her off and just repeats it, and that's that. So then Rhaenyra is like, well,
What did he
what did he
say?
say? What did he say exactly? Like, what
Yeah.
were his exact words? And Allison explains that, Viserys claims that Allison claims that Viserys spoke Aegon's name and that he was the prince who was promised to unite them, to unite the realm. And then immediately, like you see in Rhaenyra's face, that she's just like, "Oh shit! Like that's not
No,
that.
that's not
That's
what he was talking about.
yeah."
Yeah,
She's like,
yeah, but Nera also brings it up too. So she's like, "Oh, so he mentioned the Song of Fire of Ice and Fire," and then
mm-hmm.
Allison's like, "Wait, what? What? What song?" what is
Mhm.
this you talk about?
Mhm.
And that's when like it both dawn on that like somewhere somebody fucked up.
Yeah. So Rainier's like, that's a story my dad used to tell about Aegon the Conqueror, and Allison's face was like, Aegon the Conqueror.
Yeah,
I
And
she's
it
like,
made a
was in that
oh.
mistake.
moment, like
Well, that's
Allison
what.
had an oh fuck moment.
Yeah,
I made a mistake.
that's because
Oh
they
shit.
be naming these kids the same as past warriors. This
Yeah,
is why
they
you
just
don't do
reuse
this.
the same names over and over, so it gets damn confusing. That's for sure. But
No,
at the same time, like, oh shit, we had an oh shit moment. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's kind
Ow.
of just too late. Everything
Yes,
has already happened. All
emotion.
the
And
pieces have been moved.
that's
Like Otto's gone. Everyone that backed Allison in the court is not there, and Cole's gone. He's
mm,
already going to take Harrenhal,
Mm-hmm.
and Aemon. Well, Aemon's still pissed off about his fucking eye. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's never
yeah.
gonna let that go. So I think it is what it is, and there's really nothing that we can do at this point to change all of these things that are happening. And
Uh,
that's how the episode ends, is just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh fuck, like I guess this is happening. We
There's nothing they
tried, but
can
there's nothing we can do. It's
to
already
avoid war.
happening.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, but I like how Allison put it too. Like she's like, "Well, my father's gone," and Rhaenyra, like, she gets a shock on her face. She's like, "Oh shit!" I also like how like Allison, even though realizing she like fucked up and stuff,
she doubled down.
yeah, she doubled down. She's like, That's all there was to it." Like she was not gonna have a conversation anymore. She's not risking secrets.
She's
She's
like, I
like,
don't give a fuck, Keisha.
she's
Mm-hmm.
like, she's like, I need to go.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I
Yep,
like I
we're
like
done.
I like the fact when Allison is telling Rhaenyra what Viserys had told her. It's like, I swear on my mother. Full circle.
Right? Throws that I swear on my mother card, I'm telling the truth, right back
Full
at
circle.
her.
I like how a lot of things always come full circle in this show.
Yeah, I do appreciate
It's
that.
like, oh, I remember that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it was a good episode, and obviously the next one is gonna be just as good. And
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the next one's gonna be really intense.
Well,
Like these
yeah,
3 episodes have definitely set up everything that's gonna be happening, and
yeah,
now it's just gonna be
The action.
battle, and there's a lot of battles, and a lot of people die.
yeah. Matt, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, like, it's like Wayne pretty much said it is like the last 3 episodes set everything up, but like at the end of this one, when Allison said, "There's nothing we can do," that just tells you that the inevitable is happening.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the beginning of the end.
Yeah, and
Um,
like one thing I've always liked about like Game of Thrones and well, House of Dragons, all the conversations and like their double meanings and everything else.
mhm,
And it's just it seems like the more intense that the show gets, the better the dialogue.
mhm.
Yes.
And I mean, because these shows don't have a whole lot of action, which is great when you get like a massive battle scene or something, or like like a duel, because like you don't get it too often, so they have to have a good way of keeping you drawn in. That's a lot with the dialogue.
Yeah, and all the backstabbing.
Mhm.
All the backstabbing keeps you intrigued too. You're just like, oh, get that person.
It's like the
Yeah,
greatest political show ever made.
it really is. It's
A
so
perfect
good.
encapsulation of politics.
Yes.
It really is. I love it. And it's just so good. And it's one of those few shows where I'm like actually invested in a political show, which doesn't really happen. Those aren't really my cup of teas. Those dramas aren't really the ones that I go for. But I'm like, but if you put like a old medieval twist on it, and then you throw in like dragons and a little bit of magic and stuff, like I will watch the shit out of it. Yeah, let's do it. Politics, what? I don't care anymore.
Mhm. But
Well, yeah. So the first big battle dragon is going to be the Battle of Rooks Rock's Rest, which one of the councilmen in Rhaenyra's council is from there. So I don't know if it's going to be the next season, sorry, not season, the next episode or the episode following it, but that's the location of the first big dragon battle where dragons are going to be fighting other dragons, not just like dragons burning a bunch of soldiers or whatever. It's like dragons will be fighting dragons. So whenever that episode airs, that's going to be our first big dragon
This
battle.
Sunday.
So yeah, I don't know, but I don't know if that's gonna. I'm assuming it's gonna be this next episode, because it's really been building up to it, and I feel like this next episode is gonna be the Battle of Rook's Rest. But
There's a couple ways they can do it. Like they use half of the episode to get people to that spot, and the rest of it is the dragon fight.
It ends with the fight starting, yeah.
Yeah. Or they do it where like they show like the carnage and stuff, and they show you piece by piece what happens throughout the episode until you get back to the beginning.
Flashbacks, yeah. 2 weeks later, 2 weeks before kind of thing. That actually wouldn't be a bad idea. That'd be cool.
Yeah, it can go. Yeah, I'm not really sure it can go either way, but that's gonna be like our first big battle. So
I
think
they're gonna end with a cliffhanger.
I'm sure. Like I mean, we'll probably get one. If I could guess, we'll probably get one big dragon battle this season. There's a couple big ones that happen, but I feel like we're gonna have the first big one in like the middle of the season, and then maybe the start of another one at the end, or setting up for another one at the end, or we're going to be introduced to all of the riderless dragons. So the dragons that had riders at one point, but their riders died off and they haven't gotten new ones. So we might be introduced to some of those dragons maybe at the end of the season, to build up like the next bunch of dragon battles that will happen after that. But yeah, so I don't know how they're gonna do it. Like they have to do something big in the middle, because that's usually how they do it. Like some big something in the middle, and then something big at the end is usually what they do, and then they'll have just a bunch of filler episodes to connect the pieces in between. So
yeah.
So we shall see. I think this season is only 8 episodes, so episode 4 will be technically the
halfway point.
Halfway point. So we're gonna get something fucked up this next episode. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna suck a lot.
For sure. Don't get attached to anybody.
Don't get attached to anyone, I'm telling you, because this is all set in the past. So clearly all these characters die. They're not existent in Game of Thrones. So clearly they all died, but it's how they all die is the interesting way. So yeah, definitely don't get attached to anybody.
Get attached to everyone.
Or get attached to everyone like we did in Game of Thrones, and then just fucking have your heart wrenched out every time. Just kills it. Do that. It's cool. If you want to relive that PTSD, sure.
For sure. No, I mean, it's definitely gonna be something to look forward to, and then once it's over, I think everybody's gonna be depressed.
Yeah, but right now on the field we have 1, 2, 3, 4. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dragons. So right now we have Vhagar. On Team Green, we have Vhagar, whose rider is Aemon. She's the oldest and largest of the dragons. Then we have Sunfire, whose rider is Aegon. He's described as a bright gold dragon with pink scales and membranes. Then we have Dreamfire, who is Helena's dragon, who is described as a pale blue dragon. We see her in season 4 when Aemon goes into the dragon pits and that dragon blows fire. That's technically Dreamfire. So those are the 3 active dragons that Team Green has at the moment. There is a 4th dragon because there's a 4th there's a fourth sibling, and there's a fourth dragon. He was slightly mentioned, Daron, Darren Targaryen. He's in Old Town, so we've never met him. We don't know what he looks like. We don't know anything about him. They probably won't introduce him till like season 3. But he also has a dragon. And then for Team Black, we have Cyrax, who's Rhaenyra's dragon. She's like a yellow gold dragon. We have Caraxes, the Bloodworm, who's Daemon's Targaryen's dragon, who is a red dragon with a long, slender neck. We have Meleys, the Red Queen, who belongs to Rhaenyra Targaryen. And then we have Vermax, who belongs to Jacaerys Valerian, who I guess technically Vermax comes from a clutch of Cyrax's eggs. And then we have Moondancer, who we saw this episode, whose writer is Baela Targaryen. Yeah, so those are the dragons that we have right now in the battle that are active and doing stuff. So we're going to see all of them at some point this season, most likely. Are they all going to die this season? No. Are they going to die eventually? Yes.
Yes.
And then, you know, we have the whole band of like riderless dragons that reside on Dragonstone. Sea Smoke, who we saw flying around, who was Laenor's dragon. You know, he's the pale gray dragon. We see Laenor riding on in the 3rd episode, and then we see him flying around when Missaria and Rhaenyra were talking. And then we have Vermithor, the Bronze Fury, who Daemon was singing to at the end of last season. That old dragon, he belonged to Jaehaerys, who is what, Rhaenyra's grandfather? Viserys and great grandfather, Viserys and Daemon's grandfather. He's the old king. And then we have Silverwing, who is a pale silver dragon that was the dragon of Alysanne Targaryen, who was King Jaehaerys' wife. And that dragon, Silverwing and Vermithor, are also like a couple. They're a dragon couple, and they live together in Dragon Mount on Dragonstone, just cuddling and being dragons together. So those are the 3 riderless dragons that Team Black has that will eventually get introduced to, but they're mentioned in the background of a lot of episodes that have happened. So just kind of keep them in the back of your brain, because they are going to come into play at some point. I just don't think it's going to happen until maybe the end of the season or the beginning of season 3.
Well, there we have it.
That's it. We're done.
Everybody hold on to your butts.
It's gonna get crazy.
So much for brief synopsis. We're just not gonna do that anymore. We're just gonna break down the episode piece by piece. But yeah, it's definitely gonna get crazy. It's definitely gonna look wild, and then we'll do the next episode come next week. So again, House of the Dragon season 2 is on HBO Max. I think this is on a couple of other streaming services. Airs every Sunday at 9 Pacific time, or I want to say Eastern time.
It's 9 Eastern, so I think it would be like 6.
6 Pacific? Okay. Either way, yeah, definitely
Google
check
it.
it. Yeah, definitely check it out.
Google the time zones.
As always, thanks for tuning in. Remember, hit that like button and subscribe if you're on my YouTube channel. It definitely helps out a ton. Give us a follow. Give us a like on Spotify. Let us know what you think of the episode. Are you House Black? Are you House Targaryen? Are you House Alicent and Christian
Always be House Stark.
and Christian
Always.
Colepole?
The Colepole.
Either way, it'll be fun to
Nobody
see.
can get away, apparently.
Again, thanks for tuning in. At that, everybody say bye.
Laters.
Bye.
Adios.